Awesome. Everybody loves and respects Matt.
Follow Matt on Twitter and Instagram at Matt Schneidman. Sound off now on the NicoleLaw.com talk and text line at 1-877-794-1973. That's 1-877-794-1973.
If I'm in this crummy situation, let's make content out of it.
The Matt Schneidman Show is brought to you by Potawatomi Sportsbook. Bet above the rest.
Never go corporate. Always go local.
With Hunter Baumgardt, here's Matt Schneidman on the game.
Yeah, Matt Schneidman Show, Tuesday, December 3rd. We're about 49 hours and 20 minutes away from Packers-Lions on Thursday Night Football. Packers had a Friday-type day today, wrapping up their practice week inside the Don Hutson Center. Packers have practiced indoors all 3 days this week. The majority of the team, the linebackers and offensive linemen, go outside for some drills. But why practice outside when you're not playing outside this week? So they wrapped up practice earlier today over in Ashwaubenon. The injury reports out for both teams, although unlike Sunday games when the final game status reports, questionable, doubtful, out, are released 2 days before the game. For Thursday games, they are released 1 day before the game, so those don't come out until tomorrow. I'm Matt Schneidman. He's Hunter Baumgardt. We got a lot to get to today. We got the voice of the Packers, Wayne Larrivee, via video on 620. At 620, I just woke up from a nap about 30 minutes ago, and it was one of those naps, and I am saying this because I'm still not probably fully awake, but it was one of those naps where I woke up and I was like, what time is it? What day is it?
Sure.
And I was, honest to God, surprised when I looked at the clock and I saw 5:15, 5:30, whatever time it was. I was like, I thought it was the middle of the night. Like I forgot what day it was.
I have a show to do in a half an hour.
Yeah, I just completely forgot. I was totally out of sorts. But here we are. We're on the game. If you have any text, comments, calls, the NicoleLaw.com talk and text line is wide open. 1-877-794-1973. New number from, a couple months ago. We've had this number for a couple weeks now. 1-877-794-1973. I want to start with this stat that just came across my Twitter timeline. A Bill Huber stat. Bill Huber stats and information. Eric Stokes has played 999 defensive snaps over the past 3 seasons, has 0 interceptions and 0 pass breakups. He has 3 penalties, 6 touchdowns allowed, and his passer rating by year in 2022, 125.8, 2023, 152.9, in 2024, 106.3. Yikes. Now, I want to go to you, Hunter, but let me get this out real quick first. Eric Stokes was really good as a rookie in 2021 after the Packers drafted him in the first round. I remember that was the draft where Schefter broke the news that Rodgers wanted out. And then the Packers drafted Eric Stokes at number 29 that night. And Goody's conference call at 1 a.m. or whatever it was not about the draft pick. It was about Aaron Rodgers. So it was kind of an interesting situation there that night. But when Jair Alexander hurt his shoulder 4 games into the season, Eric Stokes filled in admirably. And I believe Stokes was already rotating snaps with Kevin King by week 2 against the Lions. If I remember correctly, they played the Lions in week 2, and that's when Stokes started rotating snaps. I just want to make sure my memory's on point. 2022, yeah, they beat the Lions by 21 points, 2020 week 2. But he was a 2021 draft pick, so that wouldn't make sense. And they still played the Lions in week 2, so I was right. He was good as a rookie, and then not good in his second year. Played the first half of the season and then suffered that season-ending Lisfranc injury in Detroit week 9 when Bakhtiari couldn't play because of the surface. Rashawn Gary tore his ACL. Romeo Doubs suffered the high ankle sprain, and the Packers lost 15-9, and Aaron Rodgers threw 3 red zone interceptions. Tried throwing a touchdown to Bakhtiari. That did not work out. I believe Aiden Hutchinson intercepted him on that one.
Yes, that one.
So Stokes misses the second half of his second season, misses the majority of his third season because of some recurring injuries, finally gets healthy, and he's just been a guy. Like, he hasn't been the worst. He hasn't been the best. They didn't exercise his 5th-year option, so even though he's a rookie on his 4th year, this is his last year. Yeah, I should say, even though he was a first-round pick, you have that 5th year to your option. Geez, my brain is not working right now. You have that 5th year at your disposal if you want to use it. They did not exercise that 5th-year option for Eric Stokes, so he will become an unrestricted free agent after this season. As of now, I would be very surprised if he's back. Very surprised if he's back for a 5th year in Green Bay.
As people are pointing out, it's almost hard to not luck into a past breakup.
Yes.
When playing that many snaps over those years, but it just has not happened. 6 touchdowns allowed, and what jumps out at you is obviously that 152.9 passer rating against him last year, but also the 125.8 2022. This year it's got a little better at 106.3, but still anything over 100, you're going to be a little bit apprehensive about. So yeah, it's unfortunate because, like you said, high draft pick. Maybe he was a little overshadowed by the Rodgers news of that draft night, but otherwise, yeah, it's a guy that and look, Brian Gutekunst has done really well in recent years in draft picks, but it's tough to say that this guy has been what the Packers hoped when he drafted him, other than maybe that first year.
He certainly hasn't, and it's been largely due to injury, but also partially just due to a lack of performance outside of that rookie season. So he'll probably play a role down the stretch. If Jair Alexander's out, certainly more so. If Jair Alexander's healthy, then probably not. But you never know with the health of that group. And, they need depth at corner because Alexander's been hurt. Keyshawn Nixon's moved outside, inside. Ideally, the Packers' best 5 in the defensive backfield is Jair Alexander, Keyshawn Nixon, Javon Bullard at nickel, then Evan Williams and Xavier McKinney at safety. So I guess ideally Eric Stokes is on the bench, but with Jair Alexander injured, and we don't know if he's going to play on Thursday against the Lions, Eric Stokes and Carrington Valentine could very well rotate again. So they still might need Eric Stokes despite a rocky tenure here in Green Bay. All right, let's get to the injury report. The penultimate injury report. And I had a couple people in my mentions saying, penultimate, that's a big word. You overestimated my intelligence. Penultimate means the one before the last. So the second to last injury report.
Yes. The penultimate.
Yes. Again, tomorrow will be the questionable out, doubtful designations. Pretty much the same as yesterday. The only changes, John Fitzpatrick upgraded to a full participant. Elton Jenkins upgraded to a limited participant from the quote-unquote knee injury. Probably just a rest day. And that's it. And for the Lions, Carlton Davis, their corner, upgraded to a full participant. The most notable stuff on both these injury reports, DJ Reader, still a DNP with a shoulder injury for the Lions. Their run stuffer, interior defensive lineman. Josh Paschal, still a DNP with a knee injury. Levi Onwuzurike, their D tackle, still DNP with a hamstring. Dan Campbell did say earlier in the week, well, I guess it was last week, but a couple days ago, that Onwuzurike and Paschal were doubtful to play against the Packers. And then Taylor Decker, their left tackle, DNP with a knee injury. So that's one to watch as well. We talk about all the injuries the Lions have on the defensive side of the ball. Their left tackle's hurt too. So the Packers, Jair Alexander and Romeo Doubs, both practiced in a limited capacity for the 3rd consecutive day. Romeo Doubs, according to Matt LaFleur, as of 1:45-ish this afternoon, was still in the concussion protocol.
Yeah.
I would expect him to play Thursday.
Okay.
Jair Alexander, Matt LaFleur kind of gave a we'll see. He did say yesterday, we need to see him in practice. Matt LaFleur said today he would go back and watch the practice tape, make a decision. I would tend to believe they're going to err on the side of caution with Jair because of the multiple injuries he's gone through, because he already re-aggravated this PCL injury. They want to make sure he's healthy for the home stretch. If this were a playoff game, he would 100% play. That's my guess. That's no inside knowledge I have. That's just my hunch. It's a really important game still, but it's also not a must win or a, can't lose. Those are the same thing, but stakes are high. but you also have to keep the long term in mind a little bit. And by long term, I mean the rest of this season. We'll see if he plays. I expect him to be listed as questionable. I would imagine Dobbs is cleared from the concussion protocol by tomorrow. I obviously don't know exactly where he's at with his symptoms and all that. We're not allowed to talk to guys while they're in the concussion protocol, but I would expect Romeo Dobbs to play. I don't know on Jair. And then everyone else I would expect to play. Maybe a guy here and there is listed as questionable. Josh Jacobs might be listed as questionable, but he's going to play. Josh Jacobs spoke with us today, and I quote on the magnitude of this Packers-Lions game, said, "I love these type of games. I feel like it bring out the best in me. Whenever I get a chance to prove myself or prove my team right, it's something that I always look forward to doing." Lions have one of the top 5 run defenses in the NFL in terms of rushing yards allowed per game. Josh Jacobs welcoming the challenge, Hunter, of taking this defense on and perhaps exploiting them for some of the names they have lost. Though Josh Jacobs did say today he does not care about who's not out there or who is. He just wants to go out there and win a game.
Yeah, he showed that against the 49ers. Did not care there. Just went out and had a 3-touchdown performance and 100+ yards. I think Josh Jacobs is, every time you hear from him, every time you watch him play, it's everything that you want out of a player. You think it's natural for these guys to get up for these games, and I think pretty much all of them do. But to vocalize that and say it, right? There's a lot of players that don't necessarily say that these are the type of games they, get up for, or maybe these are the type of games they think about a little more or have a little more of a chip on their shoulder for. But as fans, these are the ones you circle, right? At the beginning of the year, you circled the 2 against the Lions. You circle, obviously, always against the Bears. You circle the one against the Eagles and the 49ers and these top contenders. And now you circle the one against the Vikings in late December. But those are the ones you circle because as a fan, you enjoy watching those matchups and hoping your team can beat one of the top contenders. And I think sometimes players downplay it all, downplay a lot of that and downplay, oh, it's just another game and we're just focusing on the opponent and studying film and all that. So I think it's nice to hear someone like Josh Jacobs say, these are the games that I want to go out and do my absolute best. Not that he didn't want to do his best against the Dolphins. He's had some great games, obviously, throughout the season. He's been a key cog in the Packers' success. But I think this is going to be it'll be interesting to see, especially because you have 3 guys that did not participate in the defensive line in practice today for the Lions. So they will be a little shorthanded probably there, depending on who plays.
Yeah, Lions currently ranked 5th in the league in rushing yards allowed per game, Packers 8th. These 2 teams are pretty strong in the trenches. You define toughness, I believe we've talked about this already this week, by stopping the run and running the ball. Both these teams top 10 in rushing yards allowed per game and rushing yards per game on offense. So these 2 teams are 2 of the tougher teams in the NFL, and that's not always a word we've associated with the Packers under Matt LaFleur. It'll be interesting to see how much of Emmanuel Wilson and Chris Brooks we get in that running game, because we've seen more Chris Brooks lately than Emmanuel Wilson. But Emmanuel Wilson, his yards per carry, I don't have it in front of me, but I'm going to get it in front of me. He seems to always get good chunks when he's in the game.
Yeah. Again,
crediting the Packers don't. I mean,
offensive line.
I remember a story Pat McAfee about him trying to get. I forget who the Colts coach was at the time. I don't think it was Chuck Pagano, but he was trying to get the Colts to run fake punts. And the Colts coach was like, "So you're telling me you want me to take the ball out of Peyton Manning's hand and put it in your hand to pass it?" And it's kind of the same thing on a lesser level here with the Packers. You want to take the ball out of Josh Jacobs' hands that much? Like, yes, I get you want to give more carries to Emmanuel Wilson.
Right.
But you don't want to take the ball out of Josh Jacobs' hands. He's a top 3-4 running back in the NFL this season. Emmanuel Wilson right now is averaging 4.9 yards per attempt. Averaged 6.1 on only 14 carries. Last year, he has 68 carries this year. Josh Jacobs, on the other hand, let me pull it up real quick, averaging 4.5 yards per attempt. So 0.4 lower than that. He's still very efficient. Josh Jacobs going to be a Pro Bowl running back, you would have to imagine. You don't want to take the ball out of his hands. It's just a matter of keeping him fresh. But then on the downs that you might not use Josh Jacobs, they might be obvious passing downs on third down, and you would rather Chris Brooks in there for his pass protection. So
Sure.
I think the Packers have a healthy thing going at running back. Always a topic of discussion, running back workload that is, but now they have a running back capable of taking on the lion's share, pun very much intended, given the opponent on Thursday. And I think they're reaping the benefits of the decision they made on March 14th to sign Josh Jacobs. All right, let's get to a quick break. We got Wayne Larrivee, the voice of the Packers, coming up next. Excited to dive into this monumental matchup with him. Stick with us. It's the Matt Schneidman Show right here on The Game.
Did a full 180, crazy, thinking about the way I was. Did the
The Packers know the stakes of this game. You know, some guys will say one game at a time, it's just another game. But listen, the Packers know what is at stake as you heard there from their star safety, Xavier McKinney, as we welcome in the longtime voice of the Packers, Wayne Larrivee. Wayne, you've called a lot of Lions-Packers games, and most of the time it's been the Lions haven't been good, the Packers have been good. Can you remember a Lions-Packers game with stakes like these, with a magnitude like this one, where both teams are among, you could argue, the 5 best in the NFL?
Well, there were some games where it came down to a final game of the regular season at Lambeau Field. I want to say 2016 of the Packers and Lions. The Packers had to win that game to make the playoffs to win the division. And I think the Lions, if they won, would have won the division. So it was a similar situation. But, those two teams in 2016 weren't even close to as good as these teams are.
How much do you think the Lions' injuries will play a factor in this game? Because as we talked about on yesterday's show, of their top, I think it was maybe 6 defensive ends, top couple interior defensive linemen, top couple linebackers. There are 15 guys atop the depth chart in the front 7 to start the season, and only 4 of them are healthy right now. Then you add in Zadarius Smith, obviously, since they traded for him at the deadline. What sort of role do you think the health of this Detroit team specifically will play in Thursday's game?
Yeah, Matt, that's a good question. I mean, so far they've been able to, kind of use smoke and mirrors to cover up the new people on the roster who maybe aren't quite as experienced in their system as they would like, maybe not as talented as the people who are on the injured list. We saw this in Green Bay in 2010 when the Packers had a bunch of people on IR, 16 and all, 8 of them starters, and yet they were able to pull things together and make a Super Bowl run and, in fact, win it. So, Aaron Glenn's done a great job, but you would figure this starts to take hold as they go against better teams like the Packers. They're going to play, I believe, Buffalo at some point. They're going to have another game with Minnesota. And home or away, these injuries, I would think, would make it, they would play a role in how well this team's able to do down the stretch in securing the number 1 seed.
And we talk about the defensive injuries, but as I mentioned in the first segment, Taylor Decker, their franchise left tackle, has not practiced yet this week because of a knee injury. So that's one to watch as well. How far apart do you think these teams really are? I understand they're 2 games apart in the standings. First game, the Packers really beat themselves more than the Lions just out-muscled them, outclassed them, dominated them. Are these teams closer than it seems, or are the Lions really that much better?
Well, I think with the attrition on the Lions due to their injuries, and I think the fact that they're not quite playing offensively at the same exact level they were on November 3rd, the Lions aren't quite as good as they were back then. The Packers, on the other hand, in my opinion, Matt, are a lot better than they were then. Now, you could say, well, they barely got by the Bears and this, that, and the other thing. But, and again, they beat a beat-up San Francisco team, but they beat them soundly. They took on a Miami team that we felt last week going in. You and I talked on this program about this. The Miami was a good football team, but they're not on the level of the Packers, and that was proven. I think the Packers are a better team now than they were November 3rd. The Lions aren't quite as good as they were November 3rd. How much of a gap was there? Well, on November 3rd, it was 24-3, wasn't it? That was really the score of that game. The rest of it after that, it was, superfluous. But so I think, are the Packers better? Is this going to be a better game? I think so, yeah. Can the Packers win? Yeah. In a similar circumstance a year ago, they did.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point. Obviously the final score was 24-14, but you could say the same thing about the Dolphins game where the final score was 30-17, but it really wasn't that close, it seemed. Those were a lot of empty yards. The Packers were just trying to keep everything in front. The Dolphins were just hitting short, easy completions to get back in the game. And I agree with what you said about the Dolphins were a good team because it seems there's been a little bit of goalposts moving on this. Entering this game, everyone said, and myself included, I don't want to say everyone, but it seemed that there was the narrative, oh, the Dolphins have won 3 in a row. They got Tua back. They're good. And I truly believe that. But then they just crumble in the cold. And now after the game, it's, the Dolphins were never going to win in the cold. They stood no chance. But, well, okay, we're not going to move the field goal post. I still think that's a good win because with Tua back, they're now 3-3 with those 3 losses being by 3 points to the Bills, by 1 point to the Cardinals, and then to the Packers. The Packers beat them more handily with Tua Tagovailoa, more so than any other team had. So I think that was a good win for the Packers. Not their best win, but I still think it was a good win. Let me ask you this. The turning point, I think, in the Packers season last year was when they took the ball to start the game against the Lions on Thanksgiving, and Jordan Love hits Christian Watson for 57 yards down the middle. Christian Watson made a great catch. That was an underthrown ball. Should have been a touchdown. That's kind of what got them going in that second half in week 12. It was a shift in philosophy from earlier in the season when they had deferred after winning the toss a bunch of times. Let's say the Packers win the toss on Thursday night. What do you do, Wayne, if you're the Packers, knowing that in week 9 when these two teams played, they took the ball and only got 3 points out of it?
Yeah, but they had a long drive, Matt. They took almost half of the first quarter with that drive. I think ball possession against an offense like this, and again, while the Lions may not be playing their best offensive football of the season right now, they're still one of the best offenses in the league and very explosive, especially at home, especially on that surface. So if I'm the Packers, I take the ball and I do pretty much what I did last year. I try to, make a big play early and then just grind it out. Keep that offense off the field. I want to test that defense. All the people who are missing from that defense, and Aaron Glenn and the Lions in this attitude, next man up, and it hasn't mattered, and they have been great. I mean, they're only giving up 17 points a game. But I still think if I'm the Packers, I can move the ball on these guys on that defensive front, and I can make some things happen. And I want to control this game. I want to score first and control the narrative of this ball game.
If you look at total yards per game in the NFL, when we're talking about moving the ball, Packers rank 3rd in the NFL, 382.9. And here's this, Wayne. Entering the Chicago Bears game a couple weeks back, the Packers ranked 29th in red zone touchdown percentage. 3 games later, they rank 15th. That's how good they've been in the red zone the last couple weeks. I believe they've gone from like 47-ish% converting red zone chances into touchdowns to 55%. So the Packers rank 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th in points per game in the NFL, 3rd in yards per game. So they're really not having any trouble moving the ball. It's just been some struggles converting in the red zone. I'm not sure if I would take the ball because I think I would try and steal the possession. That's probably why I'm not a head coach, because I'm soft like that, and I'd let week 9 kind of dictate how I would approach week 14 here. But I like that. Lions 2nd in the league in yards per game, so it's not like your defense has an easy stop at their hands. Would you say, Wayne, that David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs are the best running back tandem in the NFL? I personally don't think there's any argument to be had there.
No, I can't agree with you more. It's not arguable. I mean, you look at those two guys, they've got 10 touchdowns apiece. I think one has 11, one has 10. They're just outstanding, and they complement each other so well. They've scored touchdowns in the same game on 5 occasions, and the Lions are undefeated in those games. They produced 1,758 yards, 21 touchdowns between them. There's nobody like that in the league that is at that level. And they operate behind maybe the best offensive line in the league, in my opinion. And, that's what makes that thing go in Detroit. Goff is having a great year. Part of the reason is because they have that great offensive line and they pound the football. They can run the football. They don't have great depth at receiver. I mean, they've got a couple of guys there. Amon-Ra St. Brown is one of the top 5 receivers in the league. Jamison Williams can make big plays. He can also make boneheaded plays that get you beat. But nonetheless, they don't have a plethora of great receivers. Sam Laporta is a tight end. They're trying to get him going down the stretch here this season. He was a revelation as a rookie. He's had a little more of a difficult time because people know what he's up to here in his second year. But nonetheless, this is a team built on a ground game and offensive line. That's how it's built.
I did not realize this. Jeff Hafley told us yesterday that the 1 year Jeff Hafley spent as the defensive coordinator at Ohio State, the co-defensive coordinator, I think he was, but he called plays, was with Jamison Williams. It was before Jamison Williams transferred to Alabama, and he was at Ohio State, and Jeff Hafley was at Ohio State with him. I want to bring in Hunter here. I want to get his thoughts on this. Do the Packers need to get Jaden Reed the ball more? Last 5 games, here are his reception totals: 2, 5, 2, 3, and 3. A couple of those games, he has 6 targets. But you could very well argue he's their most dynamic pass catcher, do they need to get Jaden Reed the ball more?
I mean, it's interesting. I think it's interesting because you didn't have Romeo and you still only had those 3. You said 3 last game against the
He had
Dolphins?
6 targets, 3 catches.
Okay. And 2 of them were touchdowns.
Jaden Reed has one of the worst drop percentages in the NFL, by the way.
I think if you ask people, I don't know if they necessarily think that would be the case just by watching him.
Right, exactly.
If you asked, it probably Wicks comes to mind, just the drops, unfortunately. But yeah, I think he is so dynamic with the ball, especially when he's in space. I mean, you saw what he did on that play against the Dolphins where he just got in space and he was off to the races. I feel like they just find ways, whether it's sweeps, whether it's, shorter passing plays. Would love to see him get the ball more. But then again, especially if Romeo comes back, they got all these different weapons that have different skill sets. And so you don't necessarily need to win football games.
I think it's important for 2 reasons. I think there are 2 people they really need to establish game to game. I think certainly Jaden Reed, number 1. And like Hunter said, not just through the air, hand him the ball. He does all this orbit motion crap that they never hand him the ball hardly. Give him the ball a little more often. Let him make a play out on the edge of the offense. The other guy is Christian Watson. I think they still have to develop that.
Yeah.
Both of these guys, I just got done watching the tape of the Lions-Packers game this afternoon. Both these guys made plays or were in position to make plays in that Lions game. And so I think these are 2 guys going at that secondary. I know the Lions have played well in terms of pass defense, but you're probably going to have a pretty good matchup out there on one of these guys that you could exploit.
And that's something that Jason Vrabel, the Packers passing game coordinator who works primarily with the wide receivers, has brought up when we've talked about incorporating Christian Watson. He said on the play where Josh Myers threw up on the ball against the Colts, Christian Watson was wide open. That ball was supposed to go to him, but Malik Willis made a mid-play improvisation because there was vomit on the ball. There was the play against the Lions in the first game, I think it was, where Watson's wide open down the left sideline and Jordan Love kind of underthrows it, or Watson misjudges it, whatever. There have been opportunities to get him these big plays. He's obviously has played a role in them not happening too. He dropped that 49-yard touchdown against the 49ers. But I don't think the Packers really have much trouble getting guys open. It's just catching the ball, Dontavian Wicks. He can get open against anybody. It's Jordan Love putting it on him, which he did against Christian Watson last Thursday against the Dolphins. And it's that execution. Listen, these passing plays that go 20-plus yards downfield are not easy to complete. There's a reason we're talking about them not completing enough, although the Packers, let me check, I believe they have one of the highest explosive passing percentages in the league. They're hard to complete, but it's not for a lack of guys getting open.
Yeah, Matt, you're right. They're 58 explosive pass plays. That's 10th in the league. So, they have, but I think the point you mentioned is a good one. These guys are open. These plays are there to be made. My point, if I was coaching, the offense, I'd say, okay, let's go make those plays. It's there. They're there to be made. Don't shy away from, don't say, okay, well, no, we better run on this play because, even though he's going to be open, he's going to drop it or whatever. No, I think you keep going at it. And I think down the stretch, furthermore, the thing that I think, as you were talking about this early in the season, and there were a lot of drops, but I will give you this, Jordan Love wasn't exactly putting the ball on these guys every time either, okay? I think he's been a little more accurate the last 3 weeks, and it's shown in what they've been able to do offensively. So I think these plays are there to be made down the stretch. You can't do anything about the past. All you can do is make the plays before you, and that's going forward. And I think that will elevate that Packers offense even more.
Real quickly, Wayne, before we let you go, you said 10th in explosive plays. They are 4th in explosive pass percentage. So the percentage of their passing attempts that result in gains of 16 or more yards, 16%. That's 4th in the NFL behind the Ravens, Lions, and Vikings in that order. So Packers are generating explosives through the air.
Oh, yeah.
But people want more. Packer fans are always greedy, which I love. That's okay. All right, Wayno, we'll see you down in Detroit. Appreciate you joining us. As always, we'll talk to you next week.
You got it. Take care, man.
4th in the league in explosive pass percentage. That's not bad.
No.
That's not
That
bad.
is not bad. That is, I think it's, but it is interesting. I mean, the whole wide receiver thing, and do they need to get Jaden Reed the ball more? It's like, yes, but then they have all these other guys who I also would love to see get the ball more. So,
Mhm.
like, when you say who needs to get the ball more, I could list Christian Watson, Tucker Kraft, Jaden Reed. I think all three of those guys I would like to. Heck, I mean, Romeo Dobbs, sure. But that shows how talented that group is. And it just is going to depend on game plan. It's going to depend on what they do. But Jaden Reed provides something different. And Watson can run the ball a little bit as well because he's got that speed. But Jaden Reed is just a little more dynamic and, can move a little quicker. So I feel like he's a guy you could get involved a little more in the running game that way.
Right, absolutely. A quick shout out to Ty Schmidt from the Pat McAfee show. So they were talking about this station actually on the Pat McAfee show today. And,
Hey,
and Aaron Rodgers, who was on for his weekly Tuesday segment, Aaron Rodgers Tuesdays, mentioned that John Kuhn should have a podcast. And Ty, the resident Packer fan on the show, said he does have a podcast, Brick and the Stick with Schneidman. And Aaron Rodgers listens to every single episode, but he tried to pretend like he doesn't. So he said,
right.
kind of didn't say anything. But I appreciate Ty for giving us a shout out. Latest Brick and the Stick episode out now, wherever you get your podcast. John and I dive into the Packers-Lions game, talk about Brandon McManus. The Packers finally have a kicker, Hunter.
They do.
After a year and a half of trying to find one, they finally have a kicker. What do you think of that?
I mean, I think if you would have asked me at the beginning of the season, or 2 weeks into September, Hunter, when it comes to the Thanksgiving weekend, who would be more confident in their kicker? The Ravens with Justin Tucker or the Packers with whoever they have? I would have said, the Ravens with Justin Tucker, and that's not even a valid question. Well, it's a very valid question as we sit at 6:37 on December 3rd, 2024, because Justin Tucker has not had a good year with Baltimore, and Brandon McManus has been money for Green Bay. So I think it's flying under the radar and nobody's talking about it because when a kicker's good, you don't talk about it. But boy, oh boy, and kind of like the offensive line for the Packers. And I think both of those things are keys to why the Packers are 9-3. Like I feel like, especially with Brandon McManus, like that has just been, you don't even think about it anymore. Extra points used to be, let's see if they make it. Like literally used to be like, are they going to make an extra point?
Oh,
now
my
it's
goodness.
okay. I'm going to, grab another drink of water or refill up my glass because I don't need to watch the extra point.
I mean, Matt LaFleur said the other day and he was not joking, that sometimes he doesn't even watch Brandon McManus kick.
Yeah.
Because he's just on to the next thing. He's preparing for the next thing he has to do in the game. That's how confident he is. And I was giving Matt LaFleur a hard time. He did not like the joke that I made. If you remember, and I know we talked about this, Tom Rinaldi's sideline report during the Packers 49ers divisional round game last year, where he said Matt LaFleur prays every time Anders Carlson is about to go kick. Matt LaFleur is still to this day annoyed about that.
Yeah.
Adamant that he was taken out of context, that it was kind of a tongue-in-cheek comment.
I would be
Yes.
too.
I would be as well, because saying that about one of your players is not a good look. And I doubt he would say that for consumption on a broadcast, whether it was off the record or tongue in cheek, whatever. But Matt LaFleur claims it was tongue in cheek. And now, clearly, much less worry about the kicker position. Brandon McManus, 10 of 11 on field goal attempts with makes from 45, 46, 51. He still laments that 46-yarder he missed against the Lions in the first game. When I talked to McManus in the locker room this week, he said, still got to make that. I'm one of the best kickers of all time from 40 to 49. Got to make that one. So beats himself up over that. But in total, let's see if my math is correct. 27 kicks as a Packer, 26 of them makes. They'll take that, right?
Oh, yeah. Especially with considering what they had last year and to begin the year. Unnamed the 503. This is one coming from Oregon, I believe. Will the Packers defer if they win the coin toss? I say they take it like last year.
Interesting. Okay. I think part of the reason they took it was because they had nothing to lose. They wanted to make a statement.
Mm-hmm.
Matt LaFleur has said sometimes that's a gut feel. If you're an underdog on the road, you kind of want to throw the first punch. Like they were against the Cowboys in the playoffs. They take the ball and they try and march down the field. I wrote a story about that earlier in the year. where I think from the start of last season until when I wrote the story entering the bye week, I think it was it was entering the bye week. So through the first 9 games of this season, from the start of last season to the first 9 games of this season, the Packers won the toss and chose to receive 9 times.
Okay.
Playoffs included last year. They only scored an opening drive touchdown twice.
Okay.
And that was on Thanksgiving against the Lions and then in the playoffs against the Cowboys.
Yeah.
There's something to wanting to make a statement, throw the first punch when you're an underdog on the road. When you're a heavy favorite, maybe you bank on your defense getting a stop, stealing an extra possession.
Mm-hmm.
But against a really good offense, maybe you want to, like Wayne said, throw the first punch, put the first 7 points on the board. Matt LaFleur, before the bye week, said maybe they'll look into changing their strategy because of the lack of success they had earlier this season, taking the ball and scoring touchdowns. Now, first game after the bye week in Chicago, Xavier McKinney is asked heads or tails, and he says defer. So they were going to defer. They just didn't win the toss. He just gave away what they were going to do because he, messed up there. And he had a good laugh about it afterward. But I'll be interested to see. Obviously, that requires the Packers win the toss. My guess is they defer, but I would not be surprised if they receive either.
Yeah, it's interesting because what's wild about it is because they've received so many times, that's against the trend of what the NFL really is. I mean, it's almost automatic that whoever wins the coin toss defers. So what LaFleur has done is kind of went against the grain over the last season and a half. And it's not like he's done it every time, but he's done it probably more if you extrapolated that out and went, okay, against every other team, they've probably done a little more. So like there's got to be a reason, and a good reason for them to do it. The problem is now they have a bigger sample size of, okay, of those 9 times, we've only scored a touchdown twice. So is it really paying off when we don't have the ball coming out of halftime?
Absolutely. Will be interesting to see what they do on Thursday night. We got a little bit left here in the Tuesday, December 3rd edition of the Matt Schneidman Show. Stick with us. We'll be right back after the break right here on The Game.
Out on the water, that really impresses your father. Yeah. You can find some grown-up friends, drink some wine and Get jazz on.
Attention, high school athletic directors and coaches statewide. Iron Jock is a game-changing spirit gear program. They'll heat seal your school's logo on their high-end apparel made of polyester spandex, French terry fleece, and woven fabrics. They don't sell cheap cotton fabric that fades and shrinks, and their wholesale price. No middleman marking it up. Another 50%. Contact our guy Paul Hansen at ironjock.com. That's a good deal right there. Imagine getting some, if I, not to brag here, Hunter, but I started for one of the best high school soccer teams in the state of Connecticut back in 2011, 2012.
Okay.
If my high school got some Iron Jock customized apparel, I'd be over the moon.
Would you have won more games probably?
Probably not.
Did you win almost every game?
No, but we were good. I mean,
or match? Do you call it a match?
You could call it a game. This is Connecticut, not London. Although it's called a match in England, and that's the proper way to call it. But
yes.
I don't want to confuse our American listeners. We, in 2012, beat a team called Norwalk High School 4-1. And Norwalk finished the season 22-1, and they finished the season number 7 in the country.
Wow.
And we were the only team that beat them. So
what did you guys finish?
I don't think we were in the rankings.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, that's why you said one of the best instead of the best?
In the state of Connecticut, one of the best. We were maybe top 10 in the state of Connecticut.
Okay. All right.
But certainly not in the country. We were the only team to beat the number 7 team in the country. But that was my athletic prowess in high school playing soccer. A lot of people are surprised by this. I was also a soloist in the high school jazz band.
I'm not surprised by that.
Why not?
You seem like a jazz band guy. What'd you play?
The trombone.
Okay, that is you. That is Matt Schneidman to a T.
Yeah, and I was in the marching band, so I would play.
Me too.
Okay, I played the trombone and the baritone. Well, I played the baritone horn in like the concert band.
Okay.
I played the trombone in the marching band, so we would perform at halftime of football games.
Yep.
And then I was a trombone soloist in the jazz band, and we would literally go across the East Coast, the Northeast, not, we'd go to DC or Philly or whatever it was.
Sure.
And play in literal competitions. Like we'd have jazz festivals pretty much. And I would get up there and do a solo. And was I good? No, but I was good enough.
Wow. So that was okay. So you went to jazz band competitions.
Yes.
Got it. No, yeah. I mean, the marching band thing, I was in it too. I was in the drum line. Played cymbals.
You were a little Nick Cannon drumline guy?
Yes, I was. Cymbals.
Okay.
And then bass drum, which was not great because you literally could not see where you were walking when you were marching.
Right. Especially, you and I are both more thinly built.
Yes.
I can just imagine people seeing a bass drum moving, but not seeing anyone behind.
100%. I'm sure that's what it was with me.
Okay,
and so I was just, bass drum moving, and then finally got to play snare at junior and senior year, which was the most fun, challenging, and also I could see where I was walking. So
what high school did you go to?
La Crosse Logan High School on the other side of Wisconsin.
Okay,
La Crosse, Wisconsin. Yeah. So go Rangers.
I know people really care about that, so I apologize that we have to move on. And in the last couple minutes we're just getting to know each other. I'm new to this show, so we have to, get to know each other. We've known each other for a year and a half. But, you are a new full-time member of the Matt Schneidman Show.
Yes.
Tomorrow, football feast where?
West Dallas, right on 108th Street. It is right on 108th Street. What else can I say? But yeah, it's
not 109th.
You don't have to drive far if you're in the Milwaukee area. It is right in your backyard. Come on over. You can win tickets to Packers Saints at Lambeau Field, which is going to be a fantastic
Monday Night Football, December 23rd. Nice Christmas gift.
Exactly. So you could win them and then go, oh, this is a perfect Christmas gift for fill in the blank Packers fan in my life. So do that. Come on over between 5 and 7. You can sign up to win. We'll give them away about 6:40. And you can also hear Drew, KB, Billy talk about football, and then we'll make our picks between 6:40 and 7 o'clock. And the unfortunate part is, Matt, you will be in the air, so no Matt Schneidman on the football feast tomorrow.
Yeah, I will be in the air because I booked this flight to Detroit before the season started,
Mhm.
and I didn't think. But I will be joining Drew and KB around 3:10 p.m. tomorrow. So
Yes.
if you want my thoughts on the last tidbits of Lions-Packers preview, tune in around 3:10 on the game. Listen to their show anyway. But Football Feast, West Allis tomorrow. And the good thing is you can win these tickets for free, gift them to somebody, and then they'll be like, oh my God, you spent money on Packers tickets for me? Then you can be like, yes, I did. But really, you just won them at the Football Feast from the game.
Mhm.
We can help you out.
We really, I mean, that's what we do. We make dreams come true, and we help you with the best of holiday gifts. And that's what we're going to continue to do.
And will there be some of that free Packers Miller Lite swag?
Yeah, I think so. I think we're going to give that away too. So you could win even if you don't win the tickets, you win a Packers sweatshirt. You give that away in a couple of weeks at the holidays.
Oh, listen, there are koozies, there are Nerf footballs.
Yes.
Some pennant flags, whatever it may be.
Mhm.
Just some stocking stuffers. You can
Yes.
cross off some stuff
Yes.
from your shopping list, your Christmas shopping list, just by coming to the Buffalo Wild Wings in West Allis to listen to some jackwagons talk about the Packers on the radio.
3 to 7 tomorrow. Football Feast starts at 5, and it's going to be a blast.
Syracuse football, number 22 in the college football playoff poll.
That was a nice win over Miami. I
was.
was cheering for your alma mater there. What's it like watching a game in that arena?
It's electric. I'll be honest, I don't care about Syracuse football.
Sure.
I grew up a diehard Syracuse basketball fan. So as I talk right now, my eyes are on the Syracuse-Tennessee basketball game. Tennessee, number 3 in the country. Syracuse just bricked the wide open 3. They're down by 6. I care way more about Syracuse basketball. So people,
Sure.
Jeff Halfley included, have been complimenting me on the Syracuse football win. I just smile along, but I don't really care, to be honest with you.
Sure.
But it's nice. Anthony Campanelli, Packers linebacker coach, his brother is Syracuse's quarterback coach.
Oh.
And his name is Nunzio Campanelli. Find a more Italian name than that.
That is. Oh yeah.
You can't.
You speaking of basketball there, for those of you at 97.3 The Game Milwaukee, by the way, Badgers pregame starts next. Badgers hosting Michigan at the Kohl Center tonight. Pregame is next. Tip off at 8 o'clock with the great Matt LePay. So
that's
right
tonight?
Here, right. It's starting in 5 minutes here on 97.3 The Game.
Right now, Wisconsin. Yeah. What are they in the country? They're
the game pregame starts in 5 minutes. Game starts at 8. Wisconsin is ranked 11th.
Wow.
Yeah, they're undefeated. They haven't lost.
Wisconsin got a squad this year.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Enjoy Matt LePay on the game.
Yes.
Packers Lions Thursday night. He's Hunter. I'm Matt. Appreciate everybody for listening.